Down by the Sea cupcake class. It is August and summer is coming to an end for some people. People are going back to school, but I wanted to have a fun summer class with these fun, cute little Down by the Sea critters. I've got a starfish, a crab, and an octopus. We're going to be using Satin Ice Fondant and Buttercream made from the Buttercream icing mix that Satin Ice offers. And all of this is available at your local Michael's shop. So let's go to the overhead camera and I'll show you guys up close what these cupcakes look like and we'll go over the supplies. All right, so here's a look at the starfish. They're all so cute, especially with the eyes. It makes it a lot of fun. This is the octopus and the crab. And just to let you guys know, I also have a link in the chat for the tutorial step-by-step as well for you to follow along if you need it. It will also be on the YouTube link as well once it's uploaded to YouTube. Okay, so first we're going to start with the octopus. So we're going to need, actually, first let me go over all the supplies we're going to use. So I have water here and a food safe paintbrush. This is going to help us adhere our fondant pieces together. I have some plastic bags. We're going to be working with our 4.4 ounce fondant pack, so these aren't resealable. So it's important that after we open up this fondant, and if we don't use it all, that we wrap it back up in an airtight sealed container. Today, I'm going to be using Ziploc bags. If you also have a Tupperware, it's best to store it in both. So that's very important. I also have a rolling pin. I have some cornstarch. Cornstarch is used for your surface or for your hands when you're rolling fondant out or when you're kneading it. This is to help so that it doesn't stick to your surface or your hands if it starts to get a little soft. It's important not to use too much of this though, because this can dry out the fondant as well. If you don't have cornstarch, the other alternative is powdered sugar. All right, so we also have a star cutter. This is going to help us get our starfish. I think this is about 2 inches. I have a small knife. This is going to help for small cuts that I have to make. Some scissors. This is to open up the packages. And then later, for when we get to buttercreaming the cupcakes, I have some graham cracker crumbs. You can buy these pre-made at the store, or you can actually just crush up your own graham crackers if you want. I have some cupcakes. And I have blue tinted buttercream that is in a piping bag with a petal tip. So that's going to help us get our wave effects. And then I also have regular, just plain white buttercream, because this is what we're going to put lather on the top of the cupcake before we dip it into the the graham cracker crumbs. Okay, so I'm going to put some of this stuff to the side until we're ready to work with it. And the first colors you're going to want to have ready with you are the pink and the white. Use that for the octopus. And feel free, if you have other colors that you want to use for these critters as well, that's fine. I just thought my colors I chose were a little bright and happy, but you can choose green, purple, whatever you want. Okay, so for the octopus, we are going to make a lighter pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 parts white fondant and 1 part pink fondant. And you'll see what I mean by parts. So these are just ratios. If you have a food scale, you can definitely measure out your fondant that way in grams, or if you don't have a food scale, this is an easier way to do it. You can just eyeball it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my white fondant and I'm going to cut it in half. So that would be 2 parts right there, 2 parts of white fondant. And then each half I'm going to cut in half again. So right here, that means I have 4 parts of fondant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 parts of this and I'm going to save that because I'm going to mix that into my pink to create a light pink. And then I'm going to save this other 2 parts of white fondant for later. We'll need those for the eyes and for mixing more colors. This is really a great part about Satin Ice Fondant is that they have all these pre-mixed colors available, and then you can mix the colors together to create different shades. So Makes life a lot easier rather than having to use food coloring. Next, I'm opening up my pink fondant, and we're going to just take one part of this. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take it all the way out of the packaging. And first, I'm going to cut it in half. This is going to create 2 parts. And then I'm going to cut it each half in half. So that's going to create 4 parts. And I'm just going to take 1 part. So I have 1 part pink fondant and 2 parts white fondant. And we're going to mix those 2 together to create a lighter pink. You do not have to do this step if you don't want to. I wanted to make my pink a little lighter. So I'm showing you how you can do that. Okay, so in the beginning, when using fondant, it is soft, but it does feel a little bit on the firmer side. So once you start to knead the fondant, you press it in between your fingers and you move it around, this activates the gums. And soon you're going to find that it's going to be really pliable and it's going to be softer. I know the temperatures have been really high, especially in New York. Today is in the 90s. So you might see that your fondant is going to get pliable faster because of the warmth of your hands. So that's where the cornstarch can come into play. You can put some on your surface, some on your hands. This helps me a lot because I naturally have warmer hands. So I'm always using the cornstarch. So I'm just getting my fondant a little bit soft before I mix the 2 colors together. So I'm just kneading with my thumbs. You could also knead on the surface, press down with the palm, fold it, press down. It's another easy way, especially if you have more fondant that you're working with. So now I'm going to also soften up the pink. All right, so mine's getting soft pretty fast because my hands are warm. Okay, so now I'm going to take these 2 and I'm just going to combine them together. And I'm going to keep kneading until a nice light pink forms. So now that this is a little bit more fondant, I'm going to do my kneading like this. I'm going to push down with the palm of my hand. And then I'm going to fold and push down. This is a lot easier on your hands rather than using just your fingers. Okay, so my pink and white are already mixed together. So now that we have this, we're just going to take a small portion and we're going to roll it into a ball. Keep in mind with your sizes that we want this to fit on top of a cupcake. So we don't want it to be too large. If you were doing this for a cake topper, you can make it larger. It all depends on what you're decorating for scale. I'm going to just do a little bit more cornstarch on my surface. And I'm going to roll this into a ball. So right now we're kind of creating the octopus's body. So I have a pretty round ball here now. And now I'm going to just make it into kind of like an oval shape, just a little bit. And have the bottom start to taper, but not too skinny, just so it's a little narrower than the top. So you kind of almost have an egg shape. Okay, so now we're going to put that down. Eventually, we're going to have this stand upright because this is going to go on top of the legs. So if you want, you can put this on your surface upright so it kind of flattens the bottom a little bit. And we're going to put that to the side. Next, we are going to create 8 legs. So what we're going to do is roll 8 small circles of fondant. I would say it's about the size of a pea, maybe. And it's okay if it's bigger because you can cut off the excess after you see what we're going to do. So I would roll 8 small balls. And when you're using a smaller amount of fondant, you'll notice it gets softer quicker. So if you need to use your cornstarch, don't be afraid. So I'm just taking a small amount at a time and I'm just rolling it out on the palm of my hand. try to make them as equal as you can. If they're not equal, that's okay too, because we're going to be rolling these out into skinny logs.
Hey, Sarah, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Michaela's asking, with taste in consideration, would you want to try to use a lot of fondant or at least at the least amount as possible because she's new to fondant?
Okay, so fondant this is regarding taste.
That's what she stated with taste in consideration.
Okay, so actually, people have different opinions on fondant. Satin Ice fondant is absolutely delicious. It's a vanilla flavor. So you don't really have to be too nervous around taste. This is very good. Also, we're not going to totally enrobe the cupcake with the fondant. We're just using the topper. So if say someone didn't want to eat the fondant, they could take the topper off. They can eat it on their own if they want. Once we're done with the toppers, the fondant gets a little hard just so you're able to pick it up and move it around, but it's not going to be too hard that breaks your teeth. It's more like a sprinkle type of consistency after it hardens. The cupcake is mainly going to be covered in frosting. Okay, so I have 8 small balls rolled out here. And next, these are going to be for the legs or the tentacles. And we are going to roll each ball out into a skinny log. So to do this, what I like to do is I like to just use 1 or 2 fingers and I just lightly roll back and forth a little on each end so it's even until I get a nice log shape. And then we can continue to do this with each ball. Again, if you find that some of your logs are ending up getting a little longer than the other, we can always cut them down, so that's okay too. It's okay if some are longer and shorter. It makes it more fun. You can also pick up the ball of fondant and roll it on the palm of your hand as well, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, so I have 4 more to roll out. And then after we roll these out, you have the option to curl the ends, one end of each of these to give it some movement as well. Show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so I have 1 more. So I'm just rolling back and forth evenly on each end until I have a skinny log. Okay, so I have all 8 of my logs formed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick an end, probably this bottom end, and I'm going to just curl in the edges a little bit to kind of give it a swirl effect. You can do it a lot or a little. I'm going to put it up close so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm just curling the edge for each one, and then I'm just going to lay it down here. You can do a big curl, so I'll show you a bigger curl. You just want to fold in the edge and roll and keep rolling until you're happy with the curl that you get. Or you can even just do a little one as well. So again, I'm just taking the end, I'm kind of pinching it inward, and I'm just rolling it till it creates a swirl. So I'm doing that with each one. Some swirls are bigger and some swirls are smaller. Even if you just want to curl it inward, that's fine too. Okay. So now I have all of my legs a little bit curled. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set this up so that they go into like a circular motion. Like this. So all the edges that are not curled are going to be on the inside and they're going to touch each other. And we're going to connect them. And then this is where in the middle here, we want all of these to be connected and touching. So you can kind of just push it together. And then that's where we're going to place the octopus's body as well. If you need to use some water here to adhere it, you could do that too. Just use a very small amount. You don't want to use too much water because that can make the fondant a little sticky. So just press them together, and then what we can do is we can place the head or the body on top. And then if you notice, okay, my legs are a little long, you can begin to curl them in a little bit as well. There's no right or wrong way to do this. As long as it looks like an octopus, you're heading in the right direction. Okay, so that little bit of water that I placed down is also going to work as some edible glue for the head to sit on top of the legs. So next, we're going to work on the eyes. For the eyes, we're just going to need the smallest amount of white and black fondant. So I still have white left over from before. So I'm just going to take 2 very small pieces. Also, after working with the pink, if you notice some pink on your hands, if you have access to a sink and soap and water, definitely go wash your hands to take any of the pigment that rubbed off onto your hands off. Or if you have a wet cloth or towel, that can work too. So you could just wipe your hands, and then always make sure that you pat them dry as well. Okay, so next I'm going to take out my small amount of white. And I created 2 little small balls with the white. And I need a little bit of more cornstarch on my hands. I like to keep excess cornstarch on my surface. This way I can just rub a little bit on my hands as I need to. So I have these 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to just take our pointer finger and we're just going to lightly begin to press down. If you need to add more cornstarch to your finger so that the fondant doesn't stick, that's okay too. So this is going to create our eyes. So I'm kind of creating like an oval shape. You can go round if you want. So we're going to do this to both. So I'm going to begin on the other side, and you kind of want to make them somewhat the same size. Once they're flat enough and a decent size, make sure that it's a size that's going to fit onto your octopus though. You don't want it to be too big so that it doesn't fit. So you want to just pay attention to scale as you're doing this. So what you could do is I'm going to pick one up and I'm going to see, okay, let's put it on mine. See, mine looks like mine might be a little too big. So I'm going to take a little bit off and I'm going to re-roll it again into a ball, and I'm going to press down again. It's always good to test it out before actually attaching it. So I'm just pressing down to create an oval shape. And I'll have to do the same with the other. I'm just going to take a small amount off, re-roll it, and then begin to press it down. Okay, so now that we have the white part for our eyes, next is going to be the black. So we're going to create the pupils out of black fondant. So we could just put these to the side, and we're going to take a really small amount of our black fondant. So I'll have to open up that package. After we open up this package, you'll want to also put this into a Ziploc bag as well. I'm only taking a very small amount out, and I'm going to put the rest in my bag. When you put it away in the bag, make sure that you get all the air out. And then again, if you have a Tupperware or an airtight container to put this into as well, that would be great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two very small balls of black fondant. And we're going to use the same technique. We're just going to press down with our finger to create a circle. This is a really good technique because if you don't have those really small circle cutters, this is easy enough to do. You just roll it into a ball and then you lightly press down with your finger until it creates a small circle. If you want your pupils bigger, you can make them bigger. If you want them smaller, you can also make them smaller, whatever works the best for you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a small amount of water. So to do this, I take the water out of the cup. I take the brush out of the cup and I dab it on a towel because this is going to take any excess off. I just want the brush just a little wet so that the pieces will stick, but not too much that it's going to make the fondant too sticky. So I just brushed a little bit of water onto the white fondant where I'm going to put the black circles on. Sometimes if my pieces are small and they start to stick to my surface, I'll use my knife to pick it up. And then if it gets ruined like that just did, don't worry. You just roll it back up into a ball and press it down again into a circle. That's why fondant's so great because it's so forgiving. So I'm going to put my pupils down at the bottom of the white oval in the middle. So I'm going to repeat that with the other one as well. You can make them have googly eyes if you want. Okay, so my eyes are ready now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water brush again. I'm going to tap the excess off. And on the front of my octopus, I'm going to brush the water on where I plan on placing the eyes. Just enough so that they stick. So I'm using my knife to help me pick up my small pieces, and I'm going to attach it. Okay, so our octopus topper is ready. And then until we get into the buttercream, I'm going to just place this to the side. Careful when you pick it up because it's going to be a little delicate with the legs. So I'm just going to move that to the side for now until we're ready to put it on top of our cupcakes. So the next design we're going to start on is the crab topper. So for the crab topper, we're going to need red fondant. And then we'll also need a little bit of white and a little bit of black for the eyes, just like we did for the octopus. So I'm just going to clean up my surface a little bit in between these colors just to make sure there's no excess pigment from the other colors to get on each other. You always want to start off with a clean surface. So now that I wiped it with a wet towel, I'm going to dry it off so that it's not a sticky surface.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
A question came in asking, when the water dries, does the fondant still stick or will it fall off?
Yes, the fondant will stick to each other. If a piece of your fondant does end up detaching from itself, you can also just put more water on it. So what water does, it activates with water and sugar, kind of create a sticky feeling. So that's why it creates an edible glue. If you have edible glue, that's always great too. Or some people use piping gel or even royal icing as well. So whatever you guys have available to you, that works fine. But I always like to say water because I know a lot of people have access to water, so that's easier. Okay, so I'm going to take my red fondant out now. Top off. We're just going to cut off a small portion. Again, if you were doing this for a cake topper, you would probably want to use more, but we are putting these on cupcakes, so I'm going on the smaller side. I'm gonna put the excess fondant inside my bag. Make sure the air gets out. Okay, so I'm gonna bring over the crab cupcake for reference so you guys can see it. This is very easy to make and it's so cute. Okay, so first, again, we're gonna knead this fondant to soften it up. So I'm just pressing it in between my fingers and I'm gonna take my cornstarch, dust it on my surface, dust it on my hands. Once your fondant is soft, then you're gonna wanna roll it into a ball. Some of this fondant that we're kneading right now, take off probably like a quarter of it and put it to the side because we're gonna use that for the claws and the legs. Okay, so for the body, it's really easy. We're going to roll it into a ball. And then we're going to just flatten it out a little bit. Just use your pointer finger, press it down a little bit, not so it's completely flat. You guys can see this is what it's going to look like. So it's not completely flat, but it's not a ball anymore. And then you're going to be able to just press it down and have it stand upright like that. So again, I just rolled it into a ball and I pressed down lightly with my finger to create kind of like a thick, flat circle. And then I stood it upright so it can stand. This is how it's going to stand on top of the cupcake. So next we will do the legs and the claws. So the legs are really easy. The legs are just small balls of fondant rolled up. So we want to look at the size of the body. And you can take some fondant, roll it into a ball and kind of just lay it down and see, okay, I might want my legs a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Again, you want to just pay attention to scale and kind of match things up. So I'm going to just add a little bit more fondant to that to create a little bit of a bigger ball. And we want to have 3 of these on each side of the crab. So we're going to have 6 total. Try to create them even in size. So I'm just taking a little bit of fondant, rolling it into a small ball. We'll have a total of 6. And if after you roll it, you notice, oh, that one's a little bit smaller than the others, okay, you can just add a little bit more and re-roll it again. So I like to place them all next to each other, just kind of eyeball to see if they're similar in size. And I'll add some fondant to the ones that are a little smaller. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit more to this one. Okay, so now I have all these portioned out and now I'm just going to make each one a little bit more round. And to do that and make it easier for me, I just put it on the palm of my hand and just take my pointer finger, roll it around. And it eventually creates a nice round circle. It's easy to do that when you're working with a small amount of fondant. And you just want to use light pressure. If you use too much pressure, you'll flatten it. So just lightly roll it around till it forms a nice circle. Okay, so now we have our legs. So what we're going to do is take our water. And I put my towel down here and I'm going to wipe off the excess. And I'm just gonna do a small line of water on the side. This is where I'm going to attach the legs. Start here. It's gonna attach 1, 2, 3. Just give it a little push to press them on so that they stay onto the side of the crab. So when you put it down, this is what it's gonna look like. Okay, so now let's do the other side. So I'm just going to brush a little bit of water on the side. And I'm going to attach the 3 legs. And then once you have them all attached, you can put your crab down, stand it upright, and just kind of make sure the legs are even and symmetrical. And then you can leave it standing upright like that. And next we're going to make the claws. So we're going to use the same technique. We're going to just take 2 small balls of red fondant. You can make them slightly bigger than the balls that you rolled for the legs. And then we're going to turn these into the claws. So let's see how big I want mine to be. Okay, so roll 2 small balls of red fondant, slightly bigger than the balls that you rolled for the legs. And then put some cornstarch on your fingers if you need, if your hands are getting sticky. And again, we're going to use the same technique where we just press down slightly to create a circle. And I'm not pressing this down to be completely flat because I want it to have some dimension because it's going to be sitting on top of the crab like this. So I'm not pressing it down all the way, making it to look like a thick circle. And we're going to repeat that again with the other one. So I'm just going to lightly keep pressing down until it creates an even circle about the same size as the other. I'll bring this up closer for you guys so you can see. Okay, so next to turn these into claws, we're going to take our knife and we're just going to cut a small triangle out. You can do a larger triangle if you want or smaller. I'm going to do that with each one. So I'm going to cut a small triangle. So now each of them is going to look like this. It's almost like a piece of pie is missing. Okay, so now we're going to attach these to the crab standing upright with the claws facing out. So to do that, I'm going to take some water and I'm just going to brush the bottom of each one and I'm going to press it on top of the crab. Closer to the side where the legs are, not directly in the middle. I'll show you mine after I put this one on. Okay. Mine's not sticking directly. Okay, there we go. You want to be careful with picking up your pieces when you're working, when they're still not dry, because then things can move on you with the water. Okay, so I'm going to try gently picking this up. So that's what it should look like right now. You have your body, the legs, oh, my cloth falling off. Okay, so I'm going to put this back down so this can dry. And then the 2 claws. Okay, so next we're going to do our eyes and we're going to do the same technique as we did for the octopus. So the eyes, we're going to use a little bit of white and a little bit of black. First, I'm just going to wipe my hands off now that we're going into working with white. Just want to clean up my surface a little bit as well, since we are going to be working with white. Now I'm going to make sure to dry it off. Okay, so I'm going to take a small portion of white and a small portion of black. Still have my white from before. Again, we're just going to eyeball this here. We're going to see how big we have to make them. So you're going to go by the surface of the front of your crab. So this is where we're going to put the eyes. So you can measure it out from there. So I'm going to see if this is enough here. So I'm going to do the same technique. I'm just going to need more cornstarch. Use my pointer finger and I'm going to just lightly press down till it forms a circle or an oval, whatever shape you want. And I'm going to do the same one to the other, same thing to the other, until they're equal in size. So now what I want to do is I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to see if it's going to fit good on my crab. Let's see. Yeah. I like them to have big eyes. I think it's cute. So these are good sizes for my white. And then I'm going to take out the black. Okay. So again, for the black, we just need the smallest amount. This is going to be for the pupils. So we're going to create 2 smaller balls than you did for the white. A lot smaller. Put the excess away in your bag. And then I'm going to do the same technique again. I'm going to take my pointer finger and I'm going to lightly press down just until I get the circle formed. If you're working with the darker colors and you notice the cornstarch is getting on it, that's fine. You can brush it away with your finger after, or a paintbrush that's dry. Okay, so now I have those circles formed and I'm going to attach it to the white. I'm just going to use the tiniest amount of water. I'm placing these at the bottom of the white circles that I did, or ovals. Mine are kind of oval. You can place these up at the top if you want, so they're more googly or however you want. Okay, so now I have my eyes made, so I'm going to attach them to the crab now. So I'm trying to avoid picking this up because I don't want it to fall apart. So I'm going to just brush a little bit of water on the front of my crab where I plan on placing the eyes. And I have to use my knife to help me pick this up. It's always nice to have a knife nearby because this can act as help for picking up small pieces that you make with your fondant. So I'm going to pick up each eye and place it on the front of the crab. So this is what the crab is going to end up looking like. I love these toppers. They're so cute. Okay, I'm going to place this to the side now with my octopus to let it dry. And next we're going to work on the starfish. So again, I'm just cleaning my surface up a little bit. And next we're going to be working with orange. And we're also going to be using our 2-inch star cutter as well. Okay. So I have my orange here. Cut off a small portion of that. And we're actually going to be rolling this color out. I want this star to have dimension. So when we roll it out, we aren't going to roll it out very flat. I'm going to show you guys what the starfish looks like for a reminder. So as you can see, it's on the thicker side, this star. We're not going to roll it out too thin. We'll probably roll it out about 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to just knead my orange fondant until it's nice and soft. And I'm going to dust my surface with some cornstarch. Okay, so my fondant is soft enough now. I'm going to roll it into a ball and I'm just going to press it down just a little bit just to help me get ready to roll it out. This will help from any air bubbles forming when you roll it out. You want to just flatten it just a little bit. So now I'm going to take my rolling pin. I always like to wipe my rolling pin before I use it in case there's anything on it. And I'm just going to roll forward. And I'm going to roll backward. Like I said, I'm not going to roll this out very thin because I want my starfish to be on the thicker side. So thinking that's flat enough, I'll show you guys. This is the thickness. Okay, so now you also want to make sure you have enough fondant so that when you place your cutter down, that it fits. So I'm in good shape here. I'm going to cut down with my cutter to create my star. So when I'm using cutters and fondant, I like to give it a little twist and shake to make sure that the cutter really cuts through the fondant and so that it gives a clean cut. So another thing I like to do is when it is cut, I like to just make sure the edges are clean. So I'll run my finger over each edge to make sure there's no pieces fraying off. And then I'm just going to push through. Okay, so we have our star shape now. And now we're going to create the little dots going down each point. And I have 3 going down each point. So we're going to need about 12 really small dots. And what I did to make this color is I just added some white into the orange just so they had some contrast with one another. So this extra fondant that we have from cutting out the star, I'm just going to take a small portion of this. I'm just going to eyeball and I'm going to put this extra orange away into a bag. And then what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to use this as say 1 part orange. And then I'm going to take out a bigger ball of white fondant and I'm going to eyeball it and say, okay, that's about 2 parts white, 1 part orange. And we're going to mix these 2 together to create a light orange.
Hey, Sarah, while you mix that together,
Yeah.
we got about 14 more minutes left. There's a question asking if you wanted to sell these cupcakes with the toppers, how much would you charge based on the amount of work it took you to create the figurines?
Okay, so the great thing about using fondant on your cupcakes means you can charge more because it makes it more gourmet and definitely more creative. I mean, it depends where you live, but personally, I would probably charge around $3 to $3.50 a cupcake. You could probably go even more. I mean, these are really intricate, beautiful cupcakes. And to help save on time when you're making these, you can always make the toppers ahead of time and have them stored. So if you have a set amount of themes that you think are common for your customers, you're like, okay, I get a lot of under the sea orders. You can make these toppers in advance and make sure they dry and then store them in an airtight container and they should stay good for you. So that definitely saves on time as well. Okay, so I mixed the white and the orange together and now I have a lighter orange. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create very small, very, very small circles of this color. And I'm not even going to flatten them on my surface. I'm going to just press them directly onto the triangle because these are, I mean, not triangle, the star, because this is a very small amount of fondant. So I have this little bit and I'm just going to press it down onto the starfish. If your fondant is already sticky enough that you don't need water, it should adhere fine. If you do need water, use the tiniest amount. Make sure you wipe the excess off on a towel before you dab the paintbrush onto the fondant, because we are working with really small pieces right now. So just lightly press down with your finger to flatten that out a bit to create a circle. And we're just going to repeat this process. And we're going to do 3 small circles down each point on the star. Just be careful not to go too far into the middle because we still have to put our starfish's eyes on, but those ones can be smaller because there's not as much surface area. So I'm just rolling some really small specks of this light orange fondant. And I'm just using my finger to press down to kind of create a circle. My hands are warm enough, so it's making the fondant a little sticky, so I'm not having to use any water. And again, make sure you leave enough room in the middle so that you can put your eyes there. If your hands are starting to get a little sticky, just put a little bit of cornstarch on your fingers.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
If you make a topper in advance, how long do they generally last? And do you need to keep them refrigerated to keep them preserved?
No, you do not have to keep these in the refrigerator. Fondant is best left out at room temperature in an enclosed container. It's not good for humidity or condensation to be trapped inside of it because then this will always stay soft and droopy and it's sugar. So if it's warm, it could just become a sticky mess. So your best bet is to just leave it out at room temperature in the air to let it set and dry for at least 24 hours. And then you could probably, I mean, you could store this for quite a while in a airtight container. It's sugar, so you're gonna be fine. Our fondant has a 12-month shelf life, so that is a very long time. So you should be good. I hope I answered that question.
I think so.
Okay.
Yes, and she said thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Also, I want to add to that. When doing toppers like this, if you are doing them in advance and you want them to dry quicker, or if you're in a pinch with time, you can also mix gum paste into the fondant, and that will have it dry quicker and a little bit harder, which is good. Okay, so I'm just finishing up with my little dots here, and next I'm going to move into the eyes. So I have a really small space for the eyes. So my eyes on this starfish are going to be a lot smaller than the other eyes recreated. So again, I'm going to take out a small amount of white and a small amount of black.
That was a good tip about the gum paste.
Yes, and also you can also use Tylose powder as well. And if you wanted these toppers to be completely hard and like people probably weren't planning on eating them, then you can use all gum paste. You can color the gum paste if you want. Okay, so for my eyes, I'm going to take 2 very small balls of white fondant, and I'm going to press this down directly onto my starfish because this is a small piece, just like I did with the spots. And I'm going to do this right in the middle of the starfish. Once I'm done pressing this down, I'll bring this up so you guys can see it closer. So this is the white part for my eyes right in the center. These are just really small pieces of white fondant that I had rolled into balls that I flattened to make little oval shapes directly onto the starfish. So now I'm going to take the tiniest specks of black and I'm going to repeat this process. And I'm going to press these down at the bottom of the white. Try to show you how small I'm making the black. This is this little speck of black, and I'm going to place it down, press it down, and I'm just going to lightly press down and make it a circle. And there's the eyes. So our starfish is done, and now I can show you how to decorate the cupcakes with the buttercream and the graham cracker. Okay, so I have white buttercream, and I have my blue buttercream that's already in a piping bag, and I have my crushed graham cracker crumbs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my offset spatula. You can use a regular knife if you have that. I'm just going to take a little bit and I'm going to spread some on my cupcake. Just enough so that, obviously, so there's enough frosting for someone that's eating the cupcake, and then enough for the graham crackers to be able to press on. So I'm just coating the whole cupcake. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because we are going to press the graham crackers on top. Okay, so now my cupcake is completely covered with frosting. And I'm taking this small bowl of graham cracker crumbs and I'm going to dunk the cupcake directly into it. And I'm just going to roll it around until I get a complete covering of graham cracker crumbs on top of the cupcake. So you can pick it up and you can roll it around. So I've got a pretty good covering now. So that's the sand. And next we're going to do the waves. So for the waves, I have blue buttercream and I'm using a petal tip. So it's the type of tip that it's a little round at the top on one end and then it narrows into a point on the other. So what we want is we want the narrow point to be on top to make our waves so that we're making ruffles. So we want the top of the ruffles to be on the thinner side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze and I'm just going to go up and down into like these wavy motions to create the waves on this. And they're going to look like little ruffles and you're just going to keep doing that. I'm doing this about on half of the cupcake. You could even make some of the cupcakes all waves and do the same technique on the whole cupcake if you want. Okay, so I have my waves on half of my cupcake. So I have half sand, half waves. And then you're going to take your topper. I would wait to put your toppers on these until they dry. And like I said, they like to dry best air drying, just sitting out. I like to put it on parchment paper for about 24 hours. I mean, the longer, the better. And then, so once this is dry, this will be able to stand upright or flat, however you want, so that they can look like these. All right, so that's it for this class. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Are there any questions?
I don't see any more. If anyone has any quick question, well, I think a lot of people are just saying thank you and that the class was awesome.
Oh, thank you guys for joining. I think this is one of my favorite classes because these toppers are so cute.
Yep, so that is it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And everyone, again, this class is recorded and will be available more than likely by Monday, since this is the weekend. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I look forward to you guys coming to the future classes. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.